Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Ben Lossman. I am Manager of Communications at TechSoup Canada. We're thrilled to have you here for a very special webinar celebrating our past decade of enabling access to nonprofit technology. Really, we're here today to celebrate you, our members, our listeners, all that you have accomplished over the past 10 years and all that we've learned through this journey. Today, we're going to reflect and we're going to share some insights, both on where we've been and where we're going. And we really want to take the opportunity to make sure that you are getting the most out of your TechSoup Canada membership, and that we as an organization are evolving to meet your needs. First, we would like to acknowledge the sacred land on which the TechSoup Canada office operates. It has been a site of human activity for 15,000 years. This land is the territory of the Huron-Wendat and Petun First Nations, the Seneca, and most recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit River. The territory was the subject of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Iroquois Confederacy and Confederacy of the Ojibwe and allied nations to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. Today, the meeting place of Toronto is still the home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work in the community on this territory. So I'm going to give a shorter introduction than usual, assuming that if you are joining us on this particular webinar, you are pretty familiar with what we do, but I do want to take this as an opportunity to highlight some key milestones. 10 years ago, we started our nonprofit technology donations program, and our product catalog has just grown exponentially since then. We now have more than 30 donor partners in our product catalog. Some of the technology we offer is from the biggest tech companies in the world, from Microsoft and Adobe to Symantec. But we're also very proud to have Canadian partners like Sumac. We've also, last year, we've expanded and launched our hardware donations program as well. So we have new and refurbished hardware from Lenovo, CNB, and CDI computers. And throughout all of this, our community has grown now to more than 42,000 nonprofit members. And through us, you all have accessed more than $422 million worth of technology. And we are quite proud of that. I will also touch on our learning resources because alongside our technology donations program, we're very proud of the resources that we offer. So as you know, we offer monthly webinars like this one, as well as our monthly By the Cup newsletter, our regular blog posts, and a very thriving social media presence. And really kudos to Yasmin, our communications coordinator, for really elevating each of the components of how we educate and engage the community. So through all of these various components, we have now facilitated almost 70,000 hours of learning. And we are thrilled to continue to do that and to continue making great educational content in the future. Some logistics. Today is our first time using Zoom. So we are very excited at this prospect. Zoom is a donor partner, and we really enjoy their product. Just be patient as we work out some of the technical kinks. You can ask any questions in the Q&A box. You can also raise your hand and chat with us. All of this, and in addition to changing your audio settings, you are able to do through the control bar at the bottom of your screen. You will be muted throughout the presentation, but go ahead and enter your questions at any time into the Q&A box, and we will address them as a group during the Q&A session at the end. And as always, we are recording the webinar and we'll upload to our shortly. So today we have a mix of topics and a range of speakers from the TechSoup Canada team. I'm very excited to introduce them all to you. The topics today really run the gamut from very technical issues like around your membership and accessing, maximizing your interaction with our product catalog, also to the analytical and the technical. So first, you'll hear from Gloria, who's an account manager here. She's going to cover some tips and tricks for getting the most out of your TechSoup Canada membership. She will turn it over to Yasmin, who will talk about infographics, storytelling, and visualizations. Then Ruth Ann is going to give some insights from her upcoming study into positive deviance in the And Wayne will wrap it up with an interactive segment on how we as an organization are growing and how we can grow in the future to make sure that we are meeting your needs over the next 10 years. So without further ado, I will pass it over to Gloria.
All right, I think we're all good to go. If there are any other difficulties, please let us know in the question box. What's the purpose of today? Is to speak more to how you can have more direct access to your TechSoup account, how you can manage your account during staff and volunteer transition, and how to ensure the security of your organization's TechSoup account and purchase software. If you're like me, you probably lose your login information every now and then, ideally not too often, but this is something that happens to the best of us. Why do we care? Without your login information, you do not have access to your TechSoup account, or there is some sort of barrier to accessing your account. You lose time trying to regain your login information, and time is money. So we want you to save both your time and your money. Passwords, yay. Why do we care? What can happen with poor password management? So like we said, there is a delay to placing an order, to creating a validation token, anything you'd like to use your TechSoup account for. Without your password, you don't have access. And also, insecure login credentials. It's one thing to have a password that you can remember, but you also want the password to not be easily accessible to any and everyone, because your software is something, or your software and hardware are things that have been purchased with your organization's hard-earned money. And you want to ensure that it's safe and in the best hands possible. So we at TechSoup generally use password managers to manage all of our login credentials. Essentially, it reduces the number of passwords you have to manage by like 100. Instead of remembering the password to all of the various accounts your organization runs, you only need to remember the password to your password manager. That's only one versus the 5 to 10 that we generally manage on a daily basis. In the case of TechSoup, we use LastPass. It assesses the security of your login credentials. So it tells you whether your password is strong enough, too weak, and it also suggests alternatives. So instead of, for example, a password like ABC1, it'll suggest a healthy mix of numbers, letters, and symbols to ensure that your login information is safe and your account is safe as well. It also autofills login credentials. So all you need to do is pull up the URL and it suggests what the login credential should be, because you would have already saved it into your password manager. It really truly does make life significantly easier. So this is sort of screenshots of what LastPass looks like. We currently don't have this in our catalog, but we're just giving you an example of what a password manager looks like. There are multiple password managers out there, and your organization we're happy to answer questions regarding that, but also there's so much information out there. It's not a difficult thing to use at all. So here, where your passwords are kept is referred to as a vault. This is a sample or a screenshot of what the vault looks like. In this case, this is the login information for a demo Canva account. So this is not a real account. None of this login information is real. This is just for the purposes of demonstration. You'll see that it includes the URL. You'll see there's a folder, which means that you can manage permissions. So if there are multiple accounts that your organization has, but not everybody needs permission to all of these passwords, you're able to put them into folders and manage who gets access to what. You'll also see that there's the password that's kept on there and the username, as well as the space for notes. So the notes could range from when the password was last changed, by whom the change was made, and any other information that you would like other members of your organization to have. You'll also see highlighted the generate secure password option, because like I said, you want your password to be as strong as possible to protect your account. Now, this is what I believe most of you, this is a page most of you are familiar with. This is the login page to your TechSoup account. You'll see that by the Chrome extension, once you pull up the TechSoup Canada login page, LastPass suggests the login information because you would have saved it prior, and so you don't need to remember it. You just click on it, and it fills in the login information for you. Super simple. Emails. Emails are at the heart of what we do manage in your TechSoup account. I don't think can be done without emails. When you purchase or place orders from your TechSoup account, the order information is sent to the email on file. Oftentimes licenses are tied to emails on file. So we would like you to get a better understanding of how best to manage the emails. Now, being an account manager, we get to see, or I get to see a lot of issues regarding email management on people's TechSoup accounts. First and foremost is the use of personal emails. For example, gloria@gmail.com for use for software delivery. It's all fine until Gloria goes on vacation or Gloria decides it's time to move on. Now, the hundreds of dollars you spent purchasing software is now tied to gloria@gmail.com, but I cannot, this is not an email address I can donate to the organization. So there's just so much inconvenience trying to access the organization's hard purchased or hard-earned software or software they purchased with their hard-earned money. Also, like I said, if I do decide to move around, the organization is in a limbo because they no longer have access to software that was purchased for them but sent to my email address. Finally, oftentimes we're able to resend software information, but there's only so much we're able to do because majority of the fulfillment process is also done by the donor partner. That means we can send you some information regarding the licenses that you purchased, but you still would likely have to call the donor partner for help retrieving your licenses. This, we've heard members have been on phone calls regarding license retrieval for minutes on end, if not hours. Like I said, your time and your money is very important to us, and we want to support you in making the best use of it. So a generic email. What is a generic email? We think of a generic email as an email that is not associated with one individual in your organization, which is to say, should an individual be absent, the organization can still have access to this email address. For example, your organization at gmail.com or director at your organization's domain.com. Why do we encourage this? Is to ensure that even in the absence of any team member or volunteer, the software still does belong to your organization and is accessible to them. Next, we want to encourage multiple team members having access to the purchased software because in the absence of one member, you don't want the organization's TechSoup account to come to a standstill, even though there are software and hardware needs that need to be met by the organization. So we understand that sometimes the use of a generic email might leave the administrator of the TechSoup account a step or two removed from fulfillment emails or any important correspondence from the TechSoup team. So a special, well, maybe not so special, but a hack that we encourage is email forwarding. So you have the software or the generic email on file where fulfillment information and all other important information relating to your TechSoup account is sent, but also have a forwarding in place so that it's sent to the email of the representative or the administrator of the TechSoup account. That way you can have your cake and you can eat it too. Inventory. Okay, so now you've gained access to your account, you've purchased your software, you're using it, but do you really know how many licenses you have? Do you know what's in use? Do you know where your licenses are? This is why we're talking about inventory tracking. Oftentimes we receive calls where people want to know how many licenses they've purchased, and what is in use. we can tell you how many you may have purchased just by going through your order history, but unfortunately, we're unable to tell you what licenses are in use just because we don't have the means. It's not a system available to us, and our donut partners don't necessarily have those measures in place either. So yeah, we want you to be able to track your licenses easily because we want you to stay within the limits of any purchased software. If you purchase 5 licenses of Microsoft Office, you want to ensure that you're only using 5 licenses of Microsoft Office because it's not uncommon that our donor partners conduct audits of the licenses, and if you're found to be in breach of the license limit, there will be punitive charges that will be meted out to the organization. We at TechSoup Canada exist to make it easier for you to have access to software. So it would be really sad to see you have to pay additional charges at regular cost for software that could have been purchased from us if only you had a better idea of the license numbers. Also, if you don't know how many licenses you have and any team member transitions out of the role or is away, chances are, and it's not uncommon, that organizations often keep on buying additional licenses even when they don't need them, only because they're not able to keep track of how many licenses they have. And so in the case that they need additional licenses, they're not able to tell, and vice versa. Okay, so inventory tracking. How can you keep track of your inventory? It's great. We all know that this could be an issue, but how can we address it? So it doesn't have to be a huge solution. This is just a simple Google Doc, a spreadsheet that we actually use here as well. You'll see that there are multiple sheets used to track computers, licenses, and accessories like mice and headphones, speakers, and things like that. But you'll see it generally tries to keep track of who is currently using what computer. In the case of computers here, the computer name, any notes, whether it could be maybe the computer had a change in hard drive or it's had some services or some servicing done. Who purchased it? When was it purchased? What does it look like? And anytime there's some sort of turnover or transition of these computers, we make sure we update the sheet accordingly. And likewise with licenses, it's as simple as what is the software? What version is the software? Who has it? When was it purchased? Where was it purchased? And the product key. That way we're able to tell what we have, who's using it, who is it being used by, has it been transferred, and any other information that will help us keep an eye on it. For larger organizations, this might be too simple a tracking method. If you're handling maybe hundreds and hundreds of licenses, we would strongly encourage you to look into inventory tracking software because it does save so much money and time in the process. Now, I would hope that by the end of this, you have a better idea on how to manage your login information, how to track your licenses with ease, and also to ensure that all of the purchases that are being made through your organization's account are indeed owned by the organization. Because first and foremost, we exist to support organizations carry out their mission to the best of their abilities, and the software is primarily the property of the organization. And yeah, so I believe you're all set to manage your TechSoup account more effectively and with ease. And Yasmin will we'll continue with more information on storytelling and all of the good stuff.
Hello, so thank you, Gloria. And Gloria just told you what we've learned over the last 10 years are the key struggles, barriers that you may have with your account. And what I'll be looking at from the marketing communication side is what were the key trends right now in the sector, and what do we think you should invest in and make a priority for the next 10 years. And it's data tracking, as well as infographics and storytelling. And that's what I want to talk about today. So if you're already a pro at data visualization, amazing. But if you're relatively new to this part's for you. So we'll start with data visualization, because actually they tend to be used interchangeably, infographics and data visualization, but they're a little different. Data visualization basically is crunching numbers to present impact, results, and successes, to make the numbers make sense, to show you a pattern. So it's taking that complex set of data and displaying it in a graphic interface. And like I said, you want to show a pattern, a trend, and then use it for advocacy purposes. Infographics are basically that step further. It's taking what you see on the left there, that data visualization, and then adding text or other tactics to tell a story, communicate a concept, and ultimately in our field, like we said, to make a case and advocate. So we've told you what data visualization and infographics are. Now I want to show you examples out there, how other nonprofits are using them. And we'll start with graphs. And this is a pretty good one from the Colorado Coalition for the Medically Underserved. And what they're doing is they're using icons, and they're pretty simple. You've got the education hat, the $ for earnings, home. So 3 colors, 3 different sets of info, but they give you that data representation in a really simple and easy to read way. Another one, sorry, I went too fast. I'm too excited to tell you about this, is maps to keep donors engaged and up to date. And this has been online for quite a few years by Feeding America, and it's some of the best out there. This is a screenshot, but normally you'd be scrolling over the different states, and boxes like the Maryland one there will pop up. We chose Maryland to give a little shout out to Ben here, our communications manager, who's a Marylander, I was told is the word. But what you see is, it's a great example of how visualizations are not only engaging, but they complement your fundraising efforts, because at the bottom right, you will see the average meal cost and the additional money required to meet food needs. And then we get impact reports, and they're really great for displaying and communicating campaign data, updates. And in this case, you're seeing campaign dashboard with periodic status updates on the hour, actually. And this one's by Kiva, and they do microloans globally. And it's really great because what you see is you get to see the top sectors in this one. And if we actually continue down the infographic, we also get the top countries and map. Again, the data is very simple and listed on the side there. And you might think this is so complicated. How on earth would I be able to do this? It's actually quite simple. You can use a template like Venngage provides some, and we'll mention them in a bit, where you can link a Google Sheet in any chart to the template. And then all you have to do is just update the spreadsheet, refresh your infographic, and you'll get those automatic updates. Another type is a timeline. And some organizations usually put them in the history page, how they were founded. But it can also be really great for important milestones. So this example by Girl Effect traces the journey of how we got here, linking external events as well. And you might even be able to display partnerships and really show your work in the community. Then there are journey maps to personalize fundraising. And infographics are a really great way to actually show the impact and share the personal stories from the clients, beneficiaries, donors. So you're bringing the views from the front line. And this journey map is actually pretty much like a customer journey map used in the private sector, where you would go through the different stages the customer goes through, but it's the same idea. In this case, you're showing that story of Neerajan and how many partners it would require to deliver quality healthcare to her as she goes along the journey with the different locations and partners involved. And this brings us to storytelling. So we want to tell you about infographics for storytelling by showing you an infographic about how to do storytelling. A little meta, but really useful. And this one's by Classy. And if we get classy.org, and if we get a little close in there, you can actually see that the infographics take you through every single stage to bring you along, keep you engaged, and make it easily digestible. So those are the ideas that we have that we wanted to show you what you can do. And if you're so excited, you're like, I'm ready to start right now, where do I go? What we want to show you is a few graphic tool options, and they're all free. So they do have paid options where you can upgrade, but we want to show you the free features we've used in the templates that we think would be really, really great. So let's start with Canva. And we mentioned Canva in our November webinar on digital storytelling because they make graphic design pretty easy. It's just drag and drop. It's that simple. So you see the different icons, different structure there. In the infographic there, you can actually just drag and drop different parts, and you can create banners, posters, infographics. And on the side, there are actually the charity infographics, timeline infographics, process infographics that you can go through. A similar one is Vengage that we had mentioned. Again, it's an infographic tools and does the same thing. You can do a drag and drop, and they have really great learning resources and templates and tips on how to create the most effective infographics. So if you're new to data visualization, that's the place to start. The Noun Project. So you may have a template ready, but you want some icons. And like we said in our November storytelling, humans process images faster than words. So if you need icons, this has practically any icon on planet Earth, and they are free as long as you give them credit. And then finally, Tableau Public. So this is the free option of Tableau. They're already a product in our catalog some of you may be familiar with, and they are the best in class for data visualization. But we know that that may not always be accessible. So the good news is that Tableau Public is free and an open option that can allow you to create and share interactive charts. There's a caveat. The one thing is that all the data will be public, so tread carefully with this one. But they also, we did want to mention them because they have great active forums where people regularly share information on data visualization, including best practices. So it's a really great resource to go to as well. So before I hand it off to Ruth Ann, just some quick tips. Average your data in order. Shorten labels. Keep styling simple. It's not PowerPoint in the 90s anymore with 3D effects. Stick to color themes that are in line with branding, content strategy. And if you're lost, you don't know where to start, Pinterest and Scoopin are actually not just mood boards. They're a really great place to look for different templates out there and get that inspiration. So, show, don't tell is the theme. And now I'll hand it over to Ruth Ann.
Hi everyone. So like Yasmin said, my name is Ruth Ann, and I'll be talking a little bit about tech-focused positive deviance strategies. So a bit of context, I'm not a full-time staff member, but I'm actually just wrapping up a contract as an investigative writer with TechSoup Canada, and you'll be able to read my final report very soon. So my intention is hopefully to kind of pique your interest, and then you'll be interested to read the report that's upcoming. So a bit of a background. Initially, this report began as an investigation into positive deviance strategies that we could highlight from TechSoup members. So by positive deviance, we mean creative and innovative solutions that individuals and organizations have discovered while working within the same constraints as the rest of the sector. So for our purposes, specifically through the use of technology. So this was meant not just by highlighting case studies or best practices, but finding stories of individuals using certain tech in a really unique way that could be replicated and shared with the wider community. So we also wanted to look at some sort of big picture questions about the nonprofit landscape in order to address the kind of environment that we're working in. So what is the impact of the external constraints on our ability to find these positive deviance strategies? So the two main areas that we identified that can really affect our work are the political sector and the tech sector. So for the political sector, we looked specifically at the loosening of the CRA restrictions on political activities, the ongoing Special Senate Committee on the charitable sector and the sort of conversations going on there, and then some of the recent provincial political changes, which could really affect our funding in the future. So for the tech sector, we wanted to look at not just the new software that's available that's changing our work, but the trends and the shifting agendas and priorities of companies that we should be critically assessing. So this included more general concerns that you're probably familiar with around data privacy and data residency, but also more specific questions around partnerships and what our role and moral responsibility is in this context. So that's really a brief overview of the context, which again will be in a lot more detail in the report. But moving on to some of the strategies we identified. So again, these are kind of general categories of positive deviance strategies that we identified. We're tapping into the power of networks, developing clear ethical guidelines for when to say no to a donation, and modeling exemplary privacy standards for our own user data while pushing tech companies to do the same. So on the first point, networks, this may seem kind of general or obvious, but it did appear to us that there's some untapped potential in some grassroots network opportunities. The key example that we found here is one of a shared service approach. So in this case, I spoke with a communications manager for a United Church congregation who's actually simultaneously working for multiple congregations within the same denomination. So this approach was only possible and effective because of the existing network between congregations and the technology available. So things like Google for Nonprofits, which made it much easier to collaborate and work remotely, and using Zoom to deliver sermons to connect rural communities that are naturally more isolated. So we hope to bring this idea as one that could be replicated in other areas. As you likely know, a large problem in the nonprofit sector is job precarity. Jobs are often part-time or temporary contracts. They're almost always paid less than for-profit jobs with really high turnover, which can prevent organizations from securing quality long-term staff. So if multiple organizations with similar goals or missions or another type of direct link are able to use this approach, it can really address some of those dilemmas. So the second point, more general, of sort of developing clear ethical guidelines for when to say no to a donation. So this example came not directly from a TechSoup member who I spoke with, but there was some conversations that I had around this topic, but a bit of inspiration from what's going on in the United States. So several companies such as Salesforce, Microsoft, and Google, they've recently come under fire for their contracts with the United States government and the controversial border control and the Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. So in response to this, the Refugee and Immigrant Center for Education and Legal Services, which is an immigration legal services group based in Texas, they declined a $250,000 donation from Salesforce on the grounds of Salesforce's unwillingness to give up their contract with border control. So this connected also to our findings about the responsibility of the nonprofit sector to speak up to tech companies about their dealings and really push companies who will view their technology as apolitical. So some people I talked to stated that there was kind of little that we could do as nonprofits, given the fact that we're almost fully dependent on these technologies now. It's not really our place. And not every organization is in a position to turn down a $250,000 donation. However, we have existing structures and networks that can really create solidarity and raise awareness around these conflicts in order to demand better from companies who claim to care about our causes. So what might it look like if our organizations had these clearly stated ethical guidelines for when you would not accept a donation? And the last point is modeling exemplary privacy standards for our own user data while pushing tech companies to do the same. So continuing with this theme and focus that our job as nonprofits is to act as advocates and really encourage tech companies to make ethical choices around new technology, we have to model that practice in our own work. So a really great example of this is an organization called Access Now, which is a global organization focused on protecting digital rights. So because digital rights and privacy is so integral to what they do, Access Now told us that they do things a little bit differently with some of their software. So they do use Facebook and other social networking sites that have had notable controversies with their mismanagement of user data and practices that can undermine privacy. But Access Now does not utilize features that target users based on data collected without their explicit consent. So this is a sacrifice, and this type of practice probably won't be found on any sort of best practices guidelines. But for example, those who are on Access Now's mailing list are able to opt out of information tracking, which does limit the organization's ability to gain really potentially useful data about user habits. But for Access Now, it's really violating a user's autonomy not to give them full knowledge about how their data is being used. So with examples like this, it might be hard to know sort of where to draw the line, especially when it comes to things like data privacy. But again, what would it look like if we had accepted guidelines across the nonprofit sector, which would not only protect users, but give us more strength behind advocating to other sectors? So I know that might have been kind of a whirlwind, but if any of this piqued your interest and you'd like to hear more, I really hope you will check out my report that will be released very soon. Yeah, thanks so much. And now I'll pass it over to Jane, who will be talking about digital transformation in the nonprofit sector.
Hello everyone, my name is Jane and I'm the Executive Director at TechSoup Canada. So having been here for about 10 years now, I've had the pleasure to see how TechSoup has evolved in the last 10 years. Today I hope to take a few minutes to share with you some ideas about where we're going in the future. So love to talk to you about the term digital transformation. So what is digital transformation? Really, it is the integration of digital technology into all areas of an organization, resulting in fundamental changes to how it operates and how they deliver value to members and customers. Sounds nice, doesn't it? But what does that actually mean? Well, it's a very daunting term in many ways, and this is something that all organizations struggle with, nonprofits or for-profits, large companies or small organizations. I would say digital transformation is probably the most mature stages of how technology is applied in an organization. And the transformation itself will look very different for everybody depending on what is the need that you're trying to achieve at the end of it. So in this way, it's actually difficult to articulate what digital transformation actually means. But perhaps what we can do is talk a little bit about the path to digital transformation. Many of you probably are at the digitization stage still. This is where we're still transferring paper-based information to digital information. So an example of this would be data collection that is done in paper form while you're in the field and then going back to the office and then putting into an Excel format so that you can share it or aggregate it to be able to make decisions easier. This is where a lot of organizations will say that they are trying to go paperless. So once you have done that, the next step is how do you become a digital organization? This means that you may use a tablet to do data intake in the field instead of doing it by paper first. You may then choose to use a CRM to track your donation information. At this stage, you are using technology as part of your business process, or I would like to say you're using it to address a particular need that you have. Well, how does that differ from digital transformation? Well, a digital organization may use a lot of different technology tools. They may come to TechSoup and get a CRM tool. They may get a newsletter tool, but these tools are not necessarily integrated. So what that means is you may not be able to have a 360-degree view of what is actually happening, how your members are interacting with the different services, or the effectiveness of your work. So in order for digital transformation to actually occur, honestly, technology is going to have to take a backseat to strategy. At this phase, we're focusing on how we answer the bigger question of how are we as an organization generating impact? Or where should we be focusing on our service delivery to actually effect change? It's only when we have set these goals and answer some of these questions and then apply the technology, that's where digital transformation actually starts to happen. So really, digital transformation isn't really about technology. What it is these are some areas that I think we need to be focused on in order for digital transformation to be successful. And I've tried to outline, if they're not done properly, what are some of the risks. So first of all, you need to have the right culture in your organization for digital transformation to happen. As an organization, you need to have a vision of how you can transform your organization. Without these teams or functional areas, some of them might be ready and they would go and try and apply tools, but what you may end up happening is get siloed digitization of services while the rest of the organization would resist. Also, do you have enough support on your board, your staff, and those that you serve, are they bought into this as well? If not, what you may also experience is resistance from within and external to the organization as well. Process and innovation, I kind of want to address this piece as well because we experience this internally as well. Love to ask you guys, when is the last time that you did an audit of your processes for across departments and ask a question of how you could potentially find efficiency across departments? We're not even talking about technology, it's just how you're doing your work. Oftentimes we say broken processes, broken technology. So in what ways can we work smarter by addressing the process in which that we're currently using to do our work? Or can we do things differently? Instead of using technology to duplicate process that already exist, think about how we could use technology to innovate and think about doing it differently. And I'm hoping Ruth Ann's presentation give you some food for thought on how you could potentially apply innovative strategies to your organization. And data and analytics. I'm jumping past the technology piece for a reason. Here, it's really, if you integrated your technology properly, you can then use data and analytics to give yourself a 360 view of what's happening in your organization in the fastest way possible. Yasmin has given you some great examples on how organizations are using dashboards and how data visualization can pull data from different sources to allow you to, for example, build a journey map of your members, and you can use that journey map for your fundraising efforts. Better yet, the same data could be used for impact measurement. And this is where the power of integrating all of these things together will truly help you to transform your organization. So the next bit, I want to share you some insights with you that's from some of the reports done in the sector. In 2017, Russell Reynolds Associates asked about 1,300 senior executives in the nonprofit sector on their views of digital transformation. And here are some key findings. First of all, organizations that were surveyed, most of them felt that digital is very important. However, as you can see, 74% of them felt it was really, really important, but a lot of them have not fully embedded it as part of their organizational strategy. So at the bottom, you'll see that 50% said they have technology but no strategy. And then you'll see that this is where the more mature organizations, 39%, have said they fully embedded digital strategy. So right now our sector is kind of separated into two extremes on that front. They also asked in terms of the technologies being used versus when they're being seen as important. So the interesting thing here to point out is that organizations tend to apply more on the operational and back-end uses of technology. So both important, they're actually acting on it. But when it comes to things that are more for strategic or front-end uses, such as how do you analyze data and make business decisions, or using it to create new business models or services, or even applying things like machine learning to allow you to be able to analyze data faster, they recognize this is important, and yet not a lot of organizations have actually applied it in their organization. So as part of the report, they've also looked at, okay, if this is where an organization wants to go, what are some of the key barriers? Well, there are three key areas here. First of all, it's the organization structure and ownership. Very quickly, most organizations feel that they don't have the right structure for a digital team in their organization. A lot of them said that 40% of it is the ownership resided with the CEO or the executive director, but they really question if that person has the time, expertise, guidance, or support to actually be able to effect such a transformation. Lastly, a lot of organizations said 56% actually said they don't have board representation that understood technology or digital transformation. Organization culture is another one. We talked a little bit earlier about how important it is. 44% of the organization said that there is definitely organizational resistance, or not everybody's bought in. And 42% identified there's just a lack of investment. So even though they're willing, they may not have the financial resources to do so. And lastly, even they're willing and they have the financial resources to do so, 42% of the people surveyed said they lack the talent internally within the organization to undertake such a transformation. And most of the time, they would have to recruit from the private sector for talent. This is a different study that I want to show you, and we talked a lot about barriers and what happens if you don't succeed. Well, let's talk about how you can succeed in the digital transformation project. This is a survey that was done by McKinsey, and what's interesting about it, this is actually how you can succeed in the private sector. So they've asked a lot of Fortune 500 companies, and they've listed what are the key factors here. So as you can see, management team establishing a clear change story for transformation is the most important. So having that clear digital strategy for your organization, and making sure that the digital tools we implement can help make information more accessible across organizations. This is the breaking down of the silos. Allowing for self-serve technology was also a great one because it allows for processes to be automated. It brings more efficiency to the organization. Having buy-in from senior managers and having the people who are engaged in key roles would allow for digital transformation to succeed. Standard operating procedures is the process piece. If you standardize on your process, it allows you to modify and apply new digital technologies quicker. So back to this, really, it's really only the other pieces, the organizational strategy piece, buy-in from staff, making sure that your processes are standardized, making sure you have the proper data analytics, and then applying your technology in a way that integrate with each other so that information can be distributed across all organizations. Would we really have success for digital transformation? Well, then let's see, how can TechSoup Canada help you? Well, we have a ton of learning articles on our website. I've listed a few here, and I'm sure our team would be more than happy to share more with you. So on the strategy and culture pieces, we have tools around how you can foster a culture of communication, how you can make better data decision-making for your organization as well. How do you even do public relations? For the staff and member piece, what are the ways that you can find digital ambassadors for your organization's cause or dealing with turnovers in your nonprofit. Process and innovation, do you have CRM? These I'm just calling out some of the key pieces. Data and analytics, how everything really, data is everything and everything is data. So I hope this has given you some food for thought in terms of what digital transformation is and where your organization can go in the future. On that note, I know it's very quick. I'm going to pass things over to our Managing Director, Wayne.
Hello, everyone. As Jane mentioned, my name is Wayne Miranda. I'm the Managing Director of TechSoup Canada. And so you've heard a lot of different topics right now. And Jane also just focused on content, on how we are building capacity on your journey towards digital transformation. And what I'd like to focus now on is how we can evolve to better meet your needs from our catalog perspective, the other side of what TechSoup does, which you're probably very familiar with. So this slide is about our existing strategy to expand the products available in our catalog. So we've heard from many members saying, we visited the TechSoup USA site, and why don't we have such and such program that is available in the US and Canada? And so we've heard you, and this is actually our first strategy. It's the low-hanging fruit. Let's find relevant offers that are available already in the USA and bring them into Canada. So last year, for instance, we did just that. We launched the Lenovo brand new hardware program. We've launched the Zoom video conferencing program, and we've launched the NetSuite Enterprise Resource Planning program. We are very interested in exploring the Intuit QuickBooks Online program so that there is an accounting and payroll technology that is available for both English and French users, as well as PC and Mac users. So look out for that, but again, no promises, we're working on it. The second strategy is adding new Canadian technology partners for various reasons, be it data privacy or just supporting Canada and believing in Canadian companies serving other Canadian organizations. So this past year, we've launched the CNB refurbished hardware program. And we're very interested to explore Antidote for English and French translation. We're exploring fundraising databases, alternatives in video conferencing, volunteer management, web hosting, and voice over IP phone systems. And our third strategy is to add new global technology partners. So not all the best technology is available from a Canadian company. And so here we are exploring Asana project management tools, TeamViewer as a remote desktop solution, Hootsuite for social media management, other Dell and HP hardware programs, as well as looking into Samsung phones. So this is what we're trying to do this year. Our principles guiding us into how we can expand our catalog is that, first of all, we really want to be that one-stop shop for you. You don't have to stress about where to get the technology that you need. You just know that TechSoup is behind you and we've got your back. So our first principle is that we want to have the best-in-class offers for nonprofits in Canada. Our second principle is that we're looking for the maximum breadth. We want to see comprehensive offers across many and all technology categories, ideally. And the third principle is manageable depth. We're trying not to create a situation where we have, too many spaghetti sauces in the spaghetti sauce aisle and it's confusing. And, we are here to help you navigate technology. And so what we're looking for is roughly 2 to 3 alternatives within each category. And so I'd love to hear feedback, and we're going to jump into the Q&A process soon. But over the coming months, we really ask that you help us help you better. So you can look forward to some surveys, some input mechanisms where we can collect that type of input. And what if we dream a little bit broader? So far we have been historically and rightly so focused on technology, but what if there were ways and means for us to offer resources that any nonprofit, charity, library would need, and wouldn't necessarily be, quote unquote technology? What about banking and insurance offers, office supplies and furniture, travel and accommodation, services like accounting or legal or facilities and energy and maintenance? And so similarly, I think we're going to just hop into a Q&A and would love your feedback. Thank you so much. So we're just going to go into Q&A. The first thing that we're going to try and do actually is run a poll. And so I'm going to launch that right now. And just to hear your feedback directly, what types of non-technology offers would you find most valuable? So you should be seeing your poll. Yeah, we're seeing some of the results come in. We'll give it a couple minutes, no, maybe 30 seconds. Okay, sorry, I think you couldn't hear me before. We have our results. Hopefully you can see that on your screen. And so thank you so much for your input. It seems by far services are very much in demand, so we're going to look into that. And please look forward to other means and mechanisms for us to collect this type of input. We love to hear what you need. So let's open it up for questions.
Yeah, so let's then switch this to... Okay, so I'm not gonna open questions on this one. Can everybody hear us if we speak through this other microphone? Can you put in those headphones and speak? in the air at which speaking through this? No? Okay, so then we're going to go back to a few minutes remaining. Working through some technical issues here. We're going to just read out some questions and I can ask them to the team. You don't hear from there? Maybe that's muted. Yeah. So question, this one's for Gloria. What password management system would you recommend?
I would say Asana. I would say LastPass just because that's what I'm familiar with. And so far, has been working great for me and the rest of the team, I believe. So LastPass would be my first recommendation.
Okay, if you can hear that, Gloria's recommendation is LastPass. That's what we use here on the team. Someone is asking, we inquired about budget software, however, there's none available at this time. Is this something TechSoup would consider in the future?
Absolutely consider. If you can share the specific type of budgeting software, that would be helpful.
Wayne says, absolutely, we're considering it. And if you can share through the chat or the Q&A the specific type of budgeting software you're looking for, that would be helpful. Someone is interested in online giving solutions that can be integrated with our website and credit union. Yeah, so specific software questions like that is always going to depend on the CMS. And if you want to send an email to us, you can send it to benjamin@techsoupcanada.ca. We can have a more specific conversation about that. Who can we contact for more information on the positive deviance topic? My wonderful colleague Ruth Ann can answer those questions.
Yeah, so if you are interested in positive deviance, I mean, you could just kind of Google the terms to find out more about what positive deviance is. If you're interested in the report, that will be up hopefully in the next month, very soon. We're just kind of putting final touches on it. And my email is ruthann@techsoupcanada.ca, and that will also be available online.
Okay, if you heard that, the Ruth Ann's report will be online very soon. You can email her at ruthann@techsoupcanada.ca, and you can also search Positive Deviance Framework online. Just looking through a few more questions in the few minutes we have remaining. Someone says, what if services, please? I will pass that on to Wayne and our business development team. Canadian Searchable Funding Database? Oh, and does anyone have a Canadian Searchable Funding Database solution? We do indeed. We have Grant Station, which goes on promotion every few months. So be sure to check back in with that, where the price goes down to the equivalent of $99 US. And they have been working on building out their Canadian grant making database as well. There's a question, are we planning on partnering up with Salesforce?
You just have to go with Salesforce Foundation.
So if you're interested in working with Salesforce or in using that software, search for Salesforce Foundation. Someone says, we're looking to purchase Adobe Acrobat Pro, but it's out of stock. Is there a regular release of these products, or do you have a way to check ETA for out of stock software? Unfortunately, that is, I mean, this is a question we get all the time. Adobe Acrobat goes out of stock maybe quicker than any other product we have. We have limited batches of allotments that get sent to us through Adobe, and they get snapped up very quickly. The best way to stay on top of this is to sign up for our product alerts. And then you will get a heads up as to when they're coming. But again, they do get snatched up quite quickly. If you're looking for other Adobe Creative Suite products, we do have the Creative Suite available. We have Acrobat on Document Cloud as well. So those are Adobe products that would possibly be alternatives. And then there are online open source alternatives as well. Someone's asking, could we repeat the Canadian grant database info? Go to our website and search for Grant Station. That's all one word. Sorry. Someone's asking what to use for their AGM or online meeting software. So Zoom is a good option for that. We also use Google Hangouts internally and Slack. But certainly once you get the hang of Zoom, which we are in the process of doing in real time, you can run a really good digital conference on that. Who do we send ideas to? Send them please to benjamin@techsoupcanada.ca and I will share them with the team. All right, so we have now passed the 1 o'clock mark. If you have any other questions, please do send them to me personally, benjamin@techsoupcanada.ca. You can also always get in touch with our customer service team. And if you're lucky, you will hear Gloria's voice on the other end of the line. Otherwise, please check out our website. It's really been such a pleasure to be able to showcase all of the wonderful people and expertise that I get to work with on a daily basis. Thank you again for 10 wonderful years, and here's to 10 more. Thanks, everybody.